Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of us trying to do a full solve of privatized cryptic crossword puzzle set by Cyclops. This is number 804. As always, please join in the comments as we go through it, and let's get started with, as always, just at the top, why not? Number 7, diminished pence allowed to get in the action for 8. Okay, so pence is assuming that's a reference to uh, Mike Pence, former vice president. So there could be an abbreviation here of VP or P, just for P, maybe, allowed to get in the action. So what's this telling us? That probably maybe the letter P, because VP might be a bit odd in terms of consonants to have in a word. P allowed to get in, so it's a container clue, or we're putting P into likely a word meaning action, which will give us the definition of diminished. So I imagine that's the logic, and diminished is the definition. I'm not sure if I've got enough just there to get going. And yeah, I'll tell you what, let's do 10 across, just because I've had a quick read of this one. This one looks like we can get some points on the board early here. The nation emits a lament for all to hear, for 5 letters. So this is going to be a homophone cryptic clue, because at the end is our indicator, all to hear. So we're looking for a nation that sounds like emitting a lament. And so really, what 5-letter nations do you know? Because it's not general words like state, because state is emitting a kind of utterance, but not necessarily something as specific as a lament. So I'm thinking Wales, right? That's a nation that if you wail, right, you're lamenting. So that's probably right. Well, 7 down. What's that? C4 down. Okay, immediately redirected. Pull out hindquarters fluff. So so we've got 4 for 4 down, 4 for 7 down. So it's 2 words. So it's a phrase. Pull out hindquarters fluff. So it looks like it's a definitional clue, or some kind where we're likely trying to find other words for hindquarters and fluff. Pull out sounds like it would be the definition, because that's a phrase. Hindquarters fluff would be that's the uncommon bit that you might hear. For 4 and 4, I imagine is there a 4-letter word for hindquarters and a 4-letter word for fluff? And both of those together will give you the answer here. That also means to pull out. If you pull out any 2 4-letter words that mean to pull out, what are you doing when you pull out? In a normal sense, you're retracting something, you're backing out. Is that that's because you're not wanting to be in it. So hindquarters could be back, and so back down, right? Because fluff is like down, like the down that you have on a bird. That's the fluff, maybe. I mean, and we've got the W. So, I mean, let's claim it. back, down is likely, right? So 7 across, maybe beginning with D? Oh no, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Let's try 1 down. Leak takes a long time after second tablet. Leak takes a long time after second. So second tablet is going to probably be the first part of this word, because then takes a long time or a long time is whatever represents that's going to come after those pieces. And so second is probably the word that's going to kick us off with this. And second is sometimes abbreviated to just S, like first, second, but also second like a unit of time, where hours sometimes abbreviated to H, second to S, tablet, and we've got an L here. Is there another word for tablets that's got an L as the third word in it? And we've got a leak. Leak is probably the definition, because leak takes doesn't sound right. What's 12 across? Let's see if we can get that one done. VAT blunder in party U-turn. Okay, so I probably should say VAT blunder, lies in value-added tax blunder. But actually, I think the way that I said it, start VAT. VAT is like a container of something. And so VAT that's probably a misdirect. And it's not all capitals either. So VAT, so like some kind of container. Blunder, another word for blunder will be in, another word for party. But now interesting, we've got U10 at the end, which is a reversal indicator. So I imagine that whatever this word is for party, we have to flip that around, and this other word for blunder is going to go into it. And we've only got 6 letters. Other words for party, then. So, I mean, well, to be fair, to blunder, usually, that's to or to Er's probably where we mean that to blunder. That's a nice abbreviation that you sometimes see. And ERR, that gives us something to go with. Double R, though, and the word that's got 2 R's in it for that, in party. So let's say that's 3. We're looking for another word for party for another 3 letters. So it's not going to be your typical things like generally like a party, like who's on your side or faction or something like that. Because remember, privatized definitely got more of that political bent. Almost, by definition, is what they do. And so if it's not that, is it to do with the main parties like conservative, con, as an example? That's 3 letters and sometimes abbreviated to that. In con, so you have to turn con the other way around. NOC. If you put ERR in NOC, I mean, that doesn't get you to anything like a VAT or a container, does it? Lib, like or a dem, maybe. Med, an ER in it. Not lib. What about labour? Lab? I don't know if that's a proper abbreviation. If you turn that around, you'd have bow. Can you put ERR in bow? Do you know what? You actually can. Hilariously, which does give you a word for that. So what do we have? We had lab. We flipped it around for bow, but you've got BA, and we have to put the blunder in that, which we had said was didn't we? Which we've also U-turned on with the L for lab. So you got barrel, right? Which is a, maybe this is a stretch, I don't know. Barrel, a container, a vat. And so that, see how that, I mean, that's a blooming hard one though, because we've had to think in reversal the entire time. So you'd have lab, and then you've also got to put in the flipped around in it as well. I mean, can we validate that with one down? Okay, so we've got an A here. What was this one then? Leak takes a long time. So I mean, a long time is like an age, right? I'm wondering if there's a part of this word that's got age at the end. And then what's this? What would this other word be for tablet? Do you know what? I'm still thinking of tablets like stone tablets, not like what's the word I'm looking for? Tablets that you just might take if you're feeling unwell. Medicinal tablets, like a pill, right? Spill, age, spillage, which is a leak, type of leak. Okay, so do you know what? Bowel's probably right. With spillage, whales almost certainly that's right. Can we get two down? Then we've got two letters here. And look, there's the P for pence. I bet you any money that's what that is. Two down then. Detection devices soundly fixed to joint, by which bits are cut out. I think a homophone clue because we've got soundly. And this is actually a bit of a classic one. Detection devices, which are, of course, sensors. And because I'm seeing the S and the R there as well for sensor, but soundly. So it's not going to be a sensor spelled with an S. It's going to be sensor, I'm sure, like this. Fixed to a joint. Yeah, by which bits are cut out, which is to censor something, is you're cutting something out. And this is important. Detection devices, plural. So sensors, and so censorship, because a joint, your hip. There you go. So sensors, hip for censorship overall. So this corner's coming together now. Can we do three down? And then we've got all we can then for seven across. So we're going to have a brute force stab at it to get something in there. But three down is mouthy abuse from upset Labour minister cut short. Mouthy abuse. So upsets is an anagram indicator because we're upsetting a word. What word are we upsetting? I think mouthy abuse is going to be the definition just from the way this is laid out. We get another word for mouthy abuse from upsetting this string of words, right? So this is all the wordplay and the fodder is at the end here. From upset Labour minister cut short. I mean, we've already had a case, and I don't want to presume this, but we've already done a labour shortage to LAB. And look, we've got an L at the end. So is that an A and a B? Lab? But we've got to upset Labour minister cut short. Do you know what it is? Upset, not an anagram indicator here. Because this is a down clue, upset is a reversal indicator to set it going up, right? So we're not upsetting a word, we're literally setting it upwards. So that would make sense why lab is in reversal again, if that's what we think it is. And so what's the minister? And what's mouthy? Is there another word for mouthy abuse that ends with bowel? Um, well, I mean, let's think about this. So, minister can't be connected to this labor. If we're saying lab, just because we have this L here again, minister. So we're thinking, of course, like a member of parliament, minister, which doesn't really shorten to many three-letter words that I know of. But we are taking so that we are taking a word for minister and cutting it short to three letters, I'm assuming here. But then, of course, the other difficulty with this, we've got to think about it going backwards as well. That's also mouthy abuse. Uh, Minister. What other ways of thinking about minister are there? I'm saying, or at least my hypothesis is, it's not a member of parliament. Like what about a church minister? That's another way of thinking about it. Um, Pastor, that's shortened. That's not quite right. Reverend, that's short. Well, yeah, reverend you can shorten to REV, Rev, and then you flip it backwards for verbal, which is that a stretch that verbal is to give mouthy abuse if you're being verbal? Verbal to me would be a broader definition than mouthy abuse, which seems to me to be a bit more specific. But it seems to fit though, doesn't it? Because you've got labour for lab, rev, which we've also turned around and cut short. That gives us an actual word verbal, which is kind of related to being mouthy. Yeah, not the. It's a bit of a stretch, that one, but does it help us with this 7 across now if we can have that E? So what have we got? We've got the P. Pence allowed to get in. Yeah, so P is, it's got to be P. Allowed. So then we're looking probably for another word for allowed. To get in, so it's that container clue, in another word for the action, which is going to be the container. Is there, and we've got a D to begin with, and maybe an E at the end. I don't know how broad the container is going to be. Is there a word for action which begins with D? That's fairly short because we're trying to fill in these word letters here as well. Maybe if we get going with a few others, we'll come back to this one. Maybe in the comments you've already figured this one out, but I'll get back to it. 16 across. Okay, this is a long one, isn't it? 16 and 17 and 18. So 5 for 16, 3 for 17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 18. So, if we get this one, that's a good chunk done. Family member, so probably the definition, given that's separated. He'd nod off almost, playing with balls. Okay. And we're looking for a three-worded phrase that means family member. It looks like we've got the E and the H here. He'd nod off almost. So almost is telling us that the word off is not OFF, it's OF. So that's interesting. We'd have he'd nod of. Playing. So playing might be an anagram indicator because we're going to be playing around with these letters with balls. So is balls at the end? Or is balls going to be those letters mixed in as well with he'd nod of? So how many? So 13 letters altogether. We'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that is right. So we've got the letters. He'd nod off, and yeah, we've got the H and we've got the E out of heed, not off. Okay, can we get 15 down? Maybe if we can get that first letter of 16, that would help. 15 down. After a diet, resist making easy money. Okay. Oh, it's another phrase. 144. I bet. So the one is going to be like an article. So I'm thinking it's going to be but we've got an A. Well, I don't know why I said We've got an A here. After a diet, resist. Resist is sometimes a reversal indicator. Making easy money. So I mean, let's play around with a diet. I'm sure that so it must be a something diet. What's so a four-letter word for diet, and then maybe a four-letter word for resist, maybe. Yeah, because diet backwards would not be a word. Maybe there's another word for a four-letter word for diet that we've got to resist to move backwards. Easy money. So easy money or something like that's probably the definition then. And is there a letter here that we could put in at the start? Any four-letter words for diet that begin with a D? Oh yeah, well, diet, I don't know. For N, O. Excuse me, my dog is letting me know there's someone at the door. What else could we have? I think we'll have to come back to that one as well. Let's go over to 11 across, just because we potentially got the first letter here to get us going, and we've got a K. What makes balls tick? Bar. And we've got the B, and we've got a K potentially, and I'm seeing the B and the K here in balls tick. So what makes could be an anagram indicator for balls tick. For bar, maybe. Is there a 9-letter word for bar that begins with B? So I'm thinking, just because the K that we've got, because I'm seeing CK and B, I'm just thinking black is list. Is that there? Are we using all the right? Yes. Which means to bar, to blacklist somebody. That probably is right on that one. Can we do 9 down just to get going a bit more? Breaking into house, Dickie turned weak. Now, this is an interesting word choice, Dickie. I don't know if you're outside the UK or even certain parts of the UK whether you'd know what Dickie means. Because it's not, and I'm thinking about it this way because I'm seeing the word weak. But if you're Dickie, it means that you're not well, doesn't it? It means that you're pale or weak, right? So, I don't know if that's likely the reference. Breaking into house, Dickie. So that's an interesting word choice. We're saying some other word is breaking into house. And I don't think it's going to be the word for house because if blacklist is right, we've got an A here. So either way, a 5-letter word for house, that's not going to fit. We need another word for house and maybe another word for Dickie that breaks into or is contained in the house. And that means to turn weak. So what could that mean? What other words for house do you know? Home, maybe that. but then we're looking for a two-letter word that's got an A in it for feeling ill. Um, uh, pad? Is that a word, another word for a house? And because we've got the A, so let's say it's PA for pad, but then that would mean that the D would have to go at the end, and then we'd have another word for dicky in here, three-letter word for not feeling well, like ill. It's not, oh, okay, it's not that, is it? It's ill, but backwards because it's turned. That's a blooming hard one, that. So we've got pad for house, and then dicky, which you have to know would mean you're feeling unwell, and then you've got the three letters left is ill, but you have to turn a reversal, and to be pallid is to be weak. So uh, I mean that's a hard one if that's what it is. I mean, what's L? Pissed member brought before bar. A lot of bars, isn't there, that we're encountering here? Um, Usually, member, and we've talked about this in previous walkthroughs, member means like your arm or your leg, right, or a limb. We've got an L, so maybe is it, I mean, I could put leg, brought before, bar. Pissed sometimes means an anagram indicator, right? But in this sense, it almost feels like it's the definition because all the wordplay in the fodders follows it. Member, let's say it's leg, brought before, so the leg is before a four-letter word for bar, and that means pissed. Is there a word for seven-letter word for pissed that where you got leg, legless? If you're legless, you're pissed, and I don't know, is less another word for bar? If you bar something, it's less. So not sure. Well, what's five down? Does that end in a, what do we say, an E? Second time right to have old president hit. My word. Okay. So second, we just had that discussion. Shortened to an S. Time and right is sometimes shortened to an S. We've got an I in it. To have an old president hit. Any short, like JFK, FDR is another abbreviation usually. I mean, the other week, was it last month, we had Eisenhower in here. Oh, do you know what? Is that it, actually? Because Eisenhower's nickname was Ike. Would that work? Because, oh, like to hit, to strike something. Second time abbreviated to T, right abbreviated to R, Ike for strike. And look, I'll be honest with you, if I hadn't remembered the Eisenhower thing from the other week, I think that would have been a struggle to get. There's a lot of very difficult references in this one. Can we do, oh, and what did we get? We did get an E, actually, didn't we, for less? Let's stick with it. That seems to be a validation. Can we do 8 across? Old State finally admits boob for 4-2, so a phrase. So we've got 4, and then we've got the 2 here we're not sure about. Can we get 6 down just to get us that last word there? Where many Brits would have Trump stay in September, say party. Oh, that's a long one, isn't it? Say would indicate it's a homophone indicator. Party, we've seen this before over here, haven't we? Lab, Tory. I mean, there is a T, so it could be, there's an S in the way, assuming legless is right. Okay, we'll have to come back to that. Can we do 8 across? It feels like we can. Old state finally admits boob for forward 2. Finally is it's the last letter indicator. So it's either going to be the final word, letter of state, or admits. There's no E or S yet. But look, we've got AT, old state. Uh, and so S can't go here. Look, well, look, so for boob, I think that's going to cross over because another word for that is, of course, tit. And so it is the 2 letters here, potentially. And so what does that mean for the 4? So the the E isn't necessarily east, it, no, that's not work. Something it. And well, look, I think it's going to be finally admits because admits is right before this at the end. And so if we put the S there, is there another word for state that's something like something A? Or past it? If you're old, you're past it. And PA is the abbreviation for Pennsylvania, which is a state. Okay, it's a bit. We got there. The S is the final letter of admits, and we got tit for boob. So past it. Does that help us with 6 down? Say party. Is it? There's no other word that sounds like September in terms of like a homophone, or 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 party maybe. But I mean, look, at T, we haven't even got a lot of letters. Can we do 18 across? What's that? C16. Oh, okay. We're back to this one here with 15 down. Okay. Well, that's 17 down. Maybe that will help us. Americans were hogging the solution for 6. Okay, so I'm pleased we come to this one. This is one we can get the answer down because actually that is the answer. Is answer. Because if you see here, Americans were is the fodder. Hogging, so that's a conceal or a hidden wordplay indicator. There's another word for solution that's hidden in Americans were. And you can see answer for 6, I think, which makes sense. Now, 17 across, that's got surely got to be and. So something and something. Where does that take us here with he's, so we've got the D and is there an A? Well, if that's A, then that's got to include the A in balls. So I mean that's almost certainly because answer is that is I think that's got to be correct. So that tells us that balls must be jumbled up. The letters in balls must be jumbled up with he'd nod of. So there's a lot of anagram mixing here, but we've got and, so something and something for family member. And look, we've chopped off a couple of letters here. Do you know what it is? Because because I was looking at the letter F, and I'm like, where does F fit into this? It's flesh and blood. Because now that we know balls can be mixed around, we've got the 2 L's that can be used there, the F from the of, the S from balls, and the N from nod, and then of course the 2 O's from nod, and then the of, and then the D with the end of he's. Flesh and blood for family member. Very good. Does that get us 6 down now? And we haven't got anything else, so we're going to have to try here, aren't we? Party. Okay, the D helps because, look, when we say party, we said this before, it can be like faction or side or something else. And so I'm thinking, if this is side, this is actually not a homophone indicator. So it's actually a misdirect. And I say that because where do many Brits, if we're being diplomatic, would have Trump stay in September? The answer is just straightforwardly not to come, right? Stay in the US. And what does that say here? So say is literally, so what's another word for say? To state something. We want, many Brits would want Trump to stay stateside. So side for party, state for say, another word for say, and a very long definition. So I think that's about as good as we can get because there's nothing else that we can work off there. Can we do 14 down? Because it's a long one, but we've got the first letter potentially and a B. So overcome, try heroin in the sack for 10. So I think we can probably get this one because in the sack is usually abbreviated to bed or sex. So it's one of those two. And heroin, I hope YouTube doesn't get me for saying this actually. Another word for that is smack, right? I'm sure I've seen that somewhere. Or at least another word for heroin is in the sack, the other word for sack. And we've got the B, and so, and what's try? It begins with G, maybe? Because I'm sure overcomes the definition here. Try, another way of, other words that you see that are like synonyms for try, rightly or wrongly, but in cryptics, one that begins with G is go. And that would get us go B or gob, smack, duh, gobsmacked. Because go, B-E-D, smack is in bed. So that's a strong one. That's a good one to get. Can we do now 22 across? Beg, US, well actually, do you know what? I'm actually going to do 19 down because how many words begin with O that we can, for 8 as well? Judge in too good a light, so stuffed right inside. Okay, I probably got too ahead of myself. Let's go back to 22 across. Done by screwing at a distance. Okay, yeah, I'm pleased we came back to this one. This looks like a straightforward anagram. So screwing is the anagram indicator. What are we screwing? I think it's done by, excuse me, I just dropped my pen in excitement. Done by, we're screwing that, we're mixing up those letters, which will give us the definition of, I think, at a distance. Because look, done by is 6 letters, which is what we're looking for. So 22 down then, something that we can rearrange to get at a distance with a B and a Y in it. How many words of distance have got a B and a Y in it? Or beyond, that's what it will be. Yes, that fits done by. 22 across then, we've got a B. Beg US rock band to pack, start again. Beg US rock band to back, pain in the ass for 6. Beg US, so we're looking for a US rock band to back pain. Okay, this is another hard reversal because I imagine what it's saying is beg, another word for beg, and then that begins with B by the looks of things, and then US rock band to back. So we're taking a US rock band, we're flipping it to back, which I think will give us the definition of pain in the ass. And can we get started? If you beg for something that begins with B, How many vowels can you put in here? Bam, no. Bim, bum, yes. Oh, there you go. To beg for something. Usually, if you bum a cigarette, right? And then we're looking for, I guess, a 3-letter rock band, US rock band, to flip around to give us pain in the ass. And I just, let's figure out what the band is. But I think it's Bummer because that's annoying. It's a pain in the ass when that happens. And yes, look, you've got REM backwards there. So that's where 22 across should come in. 19 down, let's just keep going because I wasn't sure about 19 down. 26 across. 10 to hold against hack. Begins with C. So another word for tend likely is holding, is a container for. Another word for against. So hack looks like it'd be the definition. Against, if it's against, sometimes it's like versus, but VS doesn't get you very far unless it's like V and S at the end, maybe. Tend. So so with all of these things, it's like, okay, so I was thinking, of course, of tend as what you tend to do, but also another word for tend is to look after something. And another word for looking after something that begins with the C is care. But it's not going to be care. We need to put a 1-letter word in care. So care is holding a 1-letter word for against which will be V, right? So not versus, but V, and carve then is to hack something. So we're really filling in 19 down now. Can we do 23 and then we'll look at 28? 23. Drinks improved. Non-drinkers pissed off. Oh dear. Drinks improved. So we've got an E, a non-drinker. So what? Something to do with an alcoholic drink. I mean, straight away you're thinking beer, right? For this 4-letter word, especially given the context of what the clue's telling us. If we put in beer, where does that get us? Well, I'll come back to it. But let's just see if we can do 28 across. That's got an R at the end. Old family member, Kane's erring politician, not bottom. An old family member is caning an erring politician, not bottom. Okay, there's a lot of bottoms and rears in this week's one, isn't there? So what have we got? Canes. So erring is an anagram indicator. We're erring canes, maybe? Or, okay, we're not erring politician, because that's too many letters. So we're probably looking for another word for politician, not bottom. So not only that, we're looking for another word for politician where you take the last letter off. No, so not bottom. So we're deleting that last letter. And so look, Keynes is 5 letters. Is there a 4-letter word for a politician where if you take off the last letter? So okay, so we and we've gone through this exercise a few times now, haven't we? So Tory is of course a type of politician, and if you take away the bottom, you are left with the R, Tor, and then look N and E in Keynes for an old family member, an ancestor. There you go. So beer is probably right then. So why is it beer? Drinks. So the definition is drinks. The drink, beer. Improved. The non-drinker has pissed off. So what this is, I think, saying is that there is another word for improved, and another word for non-drinker has left that word. And so look, I mean, what's a word for improve that's got these letters in? And it's probably going to be in this order, only inserting something and taking it out. Oh, do you know, actually, I'm just going to put you on pause because my wife's calling me. There we go, we're back. Sorry about that. Picking up takeaway. So I better try and get through the rest of this pretty quick before she gets back. So where did we get to? Improved. And we're saying that there's another word for non-drinker. Beer. What's another word for non-drinker? That could be reduced to a couple of letters. Um, do you know what it? Yeah, let's come back to that. Either way, let's say T's right. Oh, do you know what it is? Because I've just said T, teetotaler, right? A non-drinker is a teetotaler, which is TT abbreviated. To improve is better. The TT is pissed off, and so you've got beer. That's left. That's what it is. So thank you to this T that is now in this 19 down. Can we get 19 down then? I mean, how many letters, how many words do you know? That's 8 letters that begin with O and then E. I mean, over comes to mind straight away, right? And in judging two good alike, I mean, I'm thinking it's like to overrate, to overrate somebody is to judge them in too good a light, and that fits. Why would it fit? Stuffed right inside. So R is going to be abbreviated, so to an R. Right is going to be abbreviated to an R, which is going to stuff inside, which gives us over 8. Oh my god. Okay. So if you over 8, you're stuffed. So that's the direction that's going in. If you put in the R, then you overrate. Okay. I don't know how I feel about that one. Anyway, so we're getting close to the end. How do we do with 15 down? AF. Okay, so right, we're looking for a 4-letter word for diet that begins with F. Uh, Now, I don't know if this is a diet, and so this might be a stretch as well. Is it? And to make easy money, can we get 20 across? Because we've got P and an S there, haven't we? Bars, rubbish in deserted suburbs. Okay, so we've got a more straightforward one here. Deserting suburbs. So deserting is a deletion indicator. It means we're deserting a word, but only leaving the end points. And so looks like with deserting suburbs, we're going to be left with, and we already have one S at the end there, and there's going to be another S at the end, because then probably here another word for rubbish with a P in it is going to go in that deserted suburb. That means bars. What kind of, can we get 21? That might be able to help us. Ass grabbing of French students. Again, what's with all the rear ends in this one? Ass grabbing of French. So, and so we're going to have another word for ass. That's going to be grabbing of in French. So typically, if you see this, so there's a couple of words in other languages that sometimes you have to know for cryptics. Of is one of those in French, which just is de, de. I don't even know if I pronounced that correctly, but it's de. And so another word for arse, or is it arse itself? No, I don't see how that could fit in it. So another word for arse, which is going to grab and put in another container, de, for student. We haven't got a lot to go off here, but we know that it's going to have de in it. Any other words for, well, we've got plenty of other words for us to choose from, apparently, in this clue. For students, if you're a student, you're doing what? You're studying for a degree maybe, or reading for a degree, or learning something. Okay, let's see if we can do 24 across instead. Where are we? Awfully shapely. What is going on? Awfully shapely bum, but heartless. Curses. I imagine curses is the definition because that's siphoned off. Awfully is an anagram indicator. We're likely going to be anagramming shapely, and that gives us 8 letters. No, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 7 of the 9. And bum was saying bum, but it's heartless. So we're taking out the U of that, which gives us the 9 letters then, with the B and the M in it. Yes, because we've got the Y from shapely there and the E. B, an M, and the H for curses. What are curses that begin with an S, maybe? With end in a Y? Well, we know what the letters are. Blasphemy, that's what it is. Look at that. Because I kept getting caught up in the B at the end there. Blasphemy, yes, because the B and the M. That looks right. Okay, very good. Did we say what 21 down was? I can't remember now. Oh, yes. Okay, so it's got an A. Can we do 27? Fresh as an arse. I don't believe it. Okay. We haven't got a lot to go off on this one, have we? Well, 25 down. Please don't let it be anything about. Okay, thank goodness. Sick of country being forced into exercise, beginning with a P. So this is an interesting one. So it's another container. There's a country being forced into, literally, we haven't got a lot to work with. Probably a 2-letter country being forced into a 2-letter word for exercise. And I imagine it begins, okay, so maybe it's physical education for PE. And if you're sick, you puke because the country is the UK. Brilliant. 27 across was, and now it's got a K in it. Fresh isn't arse. I mean, this is probably like it's another definitional type of clue. I think just because of the K, what comes to mind is cheeky, right? Because if, literally, traditionally, arses are cheeky. There's at least 2 of them. And if you're fresh, or if you're saying, oh, that's fresh, or, that's cheeky, is that a connection? That's a bit of a stretch, maybe, isn't it? Does that help us with 21 down? So there's the E, maybe. Let's say that's the E. We put the D there, remember? Another word for student that looks like ER, yeah, maybe. Like reader, because we're reading for a degree. Not a common definition of student, though, is it? It's a very vague piece. But look, I think we can now do 20 across. If that's an R, another word for rubbish with an R and a P in it is tripe, which, with the S's, make sure I spell that right, is stripes, which are types of bars. Okay? Can we now round off maybe with 15 down? And yes, look, we can. Diet, I think a stretch, but a fast, and then buck for making easy money, a fast buck. Okay, is that? Oh no, we haven't finished because I was like, "Where's the congratulations?" Oh, we've gone full circle. What's this last one then? Pence allowed, got the P, get in the action. An action, another word for action that begins with D, allowed to get. Was it in the previous crossword 2 weeks ago where we had a similar phrasing and it was let, because we got the E in the middle? I'm just trying to fill in the middle, really. Because look, what other words for diminished that are 8 letters that have got a blooming P in it exist? And because if this is let, my reasoning is that this is depleted, which is to be diminished. Okay, there's the congratulations that I was hoping for. But why? Because, right, so action is deed, right? And pence for P, allowed to get is to let, so P and letter in it, and that's in the action, which is deed for a container. Okay, so I think this is good. Hope you all enjoyed following along. Please do, as I say, keep going in the comments for if I've got something wrong here. Always love to see what you've got to write. And Morning Cryptic, daily cryptic clues for beginners that you can get started on. So thanks so much for watching.